Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hey everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. Joining me today is Christina Martin. Hey Christina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course, it's fantastic to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm having a really good, chill day, and I'm excited because I don't think I've ever done a chat with somebody from in Pittsburgh.
Well, I definitely haven't had a chat with anyone where you are, so can you share with the listeners where you are calling in from?
Yeah, sure. I live in a place called Port Howe, Nova Scotia. So I'm in Atlantic Canada, right on the East Coast. And I live in an old farmhouse. It was built in 1875. Not that you wanted the specifics of my house and when it was built, but just to paint the scene, it's I live on a dirt road, old farmhouse. You can hear probably a delivery truck passing by. No, that's the mailman. The mail. It's very exciting when the mail comes. Anyway,
Aw,
yeah, rural country living.
perfect. Well, love how you painted the picture. Definitely seeing the songwriter and you coming out. We got to paint the pictures.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited you're on the show today, and we have lots to chat about. But before we get into all the specifics, can you share with the listeners a little about your musical journey so far?
So, I'll start out with a few very brief, like in the beginning. Like I didn't. I mean, my parents put me into music lessons as a kid, but for the most part, like I quit when I was 10 or 9 and quit piano. But I do remember being young and like writing, like being able to hear melodies and being able to write them down and chart them. Um, and but I kind of just put that all aside and went into sports and went on with the rest of my life and then I moved to Austin, Texas when I was 19. I was going through a rough patch, as I guess a lot of people maybe do in their late teens, young adulthood. My father had just died, and I had no idea like what the hell I was supposed to be doing. And so I moved to Austin, Texas, and I didn't know it was the live music capital of the world. It just sort of, in hindsight now, it sort of looks like the universe was maybe throwing me a bone or two. And everywhere I traveled, including Austin, there seemed to be an opportunity for me to experience live music. And I started journaling. I started writing songs once I started hearing other singer songwriters, and I was inspired. I thought, oh, this is so cool. I wish I could do this thing. Fast forward to a couple decades, and I'm still, it's like, knock on wood, I'm still doing it. I'm still on the path, the searching, and things have evolved because I've kind of stuck with this thing through thick and thin.
Right, exactly. And I love how you have evolved over the years. And I think that's one of the most important things to remember as songwriters that when we start out, we don't want to stay in the same space. And so I love how over these past years, from the very beginning until now, you've definitely grown, and all the life experience as well has shaped you into the songwriter you are today. So, can you share a little about your style and how it has changed over the years?
Sure. Yeah, and thanks for bringing that point up. That's a
Yeah.
good point. I think over the years, I in the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. I was very insecure about recording in the studio and performing, and I was relying on other people to help my make my vision come to life. But I very quickly, like once I gained confidence and started doing the thing, performing live, working in the studio, I did gain confidence, and eventually I had to be even more brave and courageous, when I was able to, like, years and years into, like, maybe like my second, third album in, I started to gain a little bit more courage. And by that time, I was working with my partner, my life partner, Dale Murray, and he gave me the space to speak up. And I kind of decided, no, I need to. I need to really like listen to my heart in these songs and what I, like follow my own guts and what I want to explore and where I want to take these. And some of my sound has evolved because of the musicians I play with frequently. So I've got some badass musicians that oftentimes I'm recording with. To think of a few that I know your audience may not know them, but you could look them up. Jason Vautour is an incredible guitarist and bass guitarist. He plays bass with me and has recorded with me for since my second album, Two Hearts. Dale Murray, of course, my he plays lead guitar in my band, and he's my producer, and we've co-produced a lot of my recent albums. So Dale's helped in that evolution of my sound, because of his ideas that he's contributed. Um, a lot of great drummers over the years that we've all kind of like a lot of the same stuff, but also just different genres. So I mean, in terms of like the style now, I mean, there were times when I would tell people, "Oh, if you like Eurythmics and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, like that's kind of a marriage that maybe could apply to, my sound." But I don't know if that's true. Like I think there's a lot of different artists that I have been inspired by. Um, I think my voice now does sound, I think I've found my sound with my voice, and I'm not so insecure and afraid or trying to be something. I'm just trying to be a better singer and communicator. Um, and the music, like we still like in the studio, will be like we'll use references for certain tracks, like a Paul Westerberg track or a David Bowie song, um, or a Beatles song for But I mean, those are just like a place to start.
Mhm.
It's never like we want to sound like this. It's like let's try this, see where it evolves in the studio. The songs maybe already written, but like we're talking about the doing the overdubs and so I guess my songs evolve from my influences, my own desire to kind of steer the direction, and then the people that I'm recording with and playing live.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Reference tracks are so important. I use those as well. And I think it's really awesome how you're so free with the whole process and, following your heart and not being afraid to try new things and the collaboration aspect as well. And like once you find that confidence within yourself, everything changes because I was definitely in the same position as you when I started. I had major anxiety in the studio, and, listening back to the earliest demos I've done of songs that I never even released, you can just tell from the vocal delivery, it just wasn't there because I was so nervous and I wasn't, fully in the moment. And I also, at the time was working with somebody who didn't really let me contribute to the production and all of that. But now like you, like I'm with a producer who I definitely co-produce with, and I'm super comfortable with him. And, I'm currently working on my second full-length album. I released my debut album a couple years ago, an EP last year, and I'm working on another album. And, it's so cool, like once you get to the second, third, fourth project, when things start to change, because I feel like at the beginning you're still learning the process and you're still
Yes.
developing who you are as an artist, discovering that, finding who's right for you to work with. And so I think it does take a few projects to really figure out who you want to be as a songwriter and artist.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I was listening to we were grocery shopping yesterday and heard one of Madonna's earlier tracks, and I was like, listen to how young her voice sounds, like so undeveloped, like still a cool song, catchy and all that, and we loved it. But I think that's the cool thing about our voices as we age, if we take care of ourselves, especially like, there's this new tones and tonalities and richness that I'm discovering. And I remember my husband's aunt Anne Murray telling me that her voice was its best in her 40s, and so that was when I heard that I was in my late 30s, and I was nervous about losing my voice or I don't know, just expiring. And I'm happy to say that in my 40s, like I could feel that it's very liberating, like if you like having taken care of myself and then just having this appreciation and really enjoying singing and not being nervous and afraid. I mean, I still push it and try for new things in the studio. It's just more exciting than scary. Like, but we all like we all have to go through that scary, nerve-wracking period. And I'm sure there will be more different new nerve-wracking experiences that I challenge myself in my career. It's not over
Mhm.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing too, I think, when we have those nervous feelings, it's almost a good thing in a way because we're excited, but when we still have those little bit of nerves, it's we want to do a good job. And so I think that's the place where it's coming from, not necessarily, oh God, what if somebody hates me or, what if I totally screw this up? It's more like I believe in what I'm doing and I want this to be good. And so it's just that anticipation and that hope for something great to come out of everything that we're doing. So yeah, so I want to hear now about your songwriting process.
Sure. It's funny. I'm not actually currently in songwriting mode, so it tends to be like a seasonal thing for me because I do find that a lot of my time I spend, managing my business, the music business side of things, and I do enjoy that. I've learned it brings me a sense of security, and I feel good about it. And then comes the time that I can have creative freedom. So when I'm in writing mode, usually the routine is, I get up early and I do my morning like routine, whatever it is. Usually it's some kind of like physical activity, and I just start writing. I start journaling. Um, and I usually read about writing. So, like Louise DeSalvo would be an example of, or Julia Cameron, or would have been an earlier person. I would have been like the artist way, reading and then doing writing exercises just to get that. I don't know, the that part of me flowing, I suppose. And then it's just time to pick up my instrument. And sometimes I throw like I'll set aside a good like my whole morning to just write and organize my ideas and see like sift through old ideas that I've accumulated, like song clips on my phone. I usually have that all organized. Like while I'm on tour, I send myself ideas and melodies, or just I talk like this I'd like this kind of a drum beat, like this, like something silly, just some kind of a reference, so that when I do am in writing season, then it quickly comes back, and I go to the piano or my acoustic guitar or my electric, and I'll just start working on whatever it could be. It could be a part of a song. I usually work pretty quickly, and that I don't mean like the song will be finished quickly. I just mean like I'll sit down and work on a song, and if nothing's coming after, 15 or 20 minutes, I'll move on to a different song, and I'll just kind of see if something starts flowing. And sometimes I can actually write a song pretty quickly. Like I've done songs in one sitting. I remember during after a pretty heavy hurricane we had here in Nova Scotia last year, I just wanted to write another holiday song, and it took me about 15 minutes, and that's not typical, but sometimes it happens. And I think the more you do it, the more you show up, more likely you're going to write something, or that's going to be likely to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how, you mentioned how if you're working on something and it's not working, you're not afraid to move on to something else. I think that's really important because there are songwriters who will get stuck on one idea and work it over and over and over. And if it's not going anywhere, they're staying in that space instead of trying other things. And so I definitely have the same approach of if something's not working, not forcing it, moving on. And it's really awesome how you wrote that song so quickly. And it definitely isn't typical, but it does happen to us from time to time. And I think what's really interesting is that, the songs that really come quickly, those tend to be the best of our songs because we're in this very special place and that's not something that happens all the time or every day, but still like you said, showing up and working on the craft is really important because our other songs are great too, even the ones we didn't write in 15 minutes. And so being able to show up and work on our craft and crank out these songs even when we're not in a super inspirational space is really important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So now I want to hear about your new album, Storm. So can you share the inspiration behind this project and the overall concept?
Well, I didn't start with an overall concept at all. I started like, when I was it was during the pandemic. I had time. It was time to see if I had enough material for an album. And I put aside, I guess I dedicated about a month to finish writing songs, write a few new ones. And there were some older songs of mine that I felt it was time to give them a home. And I kind of revamped them all. I didn't, yeah, so I didn't, I mean, I had this song called Storm that I had finished a couple years before. That was the anchor song where I knew I was going to call the album Storm. And what it represented for me was, looking back at my life and what I have gone through, and both like all the struggles and the things, to celebrate. I have a lot to be grateful for today, and I worked really, really fucking hard for it. And and I recognize too that maybe people in my life had suffered and given up things, and part of my being able to, you know to overcome things was because of them as well. And so it's just this all overall like sense of awe and gratitude for a life so far, and all the people involved. And so that was really the at the heart of the whole thing. And then I didn't want necessarily for there to be songs that sounded all identical. I said, let's take it song by song. Let's do the best we can. I mean, we had a larger selection. We whittled down to 11 tracks in the end that felt fitting. And then in the end, which I mean, from start to end of the recording process, which was a long period during COVID, we had recorded in our home, but also rented different small theaters, a chapel at one point to record grand piano, and another chapel to record the strings. And I was learning how to write string parts and collaborated with a wonderful arranger and string player named Karen Graves. And strings kind of helped tie a lot of the album together. I didn't know any of this was going to happen really in the beginning. These were just sort of, I knew that, oh, I sure would love this task of challenging myself to write string parts, and I actually read this PDF download, free download that Dave Stewart from from Eurythmics had created about writing strings for pop music. And so that's where I learned from that, and then just started trying it. Um, and in the end, started looking at the tracks and thinking, because I am someone who's likes to organize things, and I was trying to see if there was some kind of a natural, sensical thing to all these songs, and I could actually put them in chronological order of my life and the impact, and the stories and the pivotal moments, and that led me up to sort of the last song, which is a song about like that song's called "Healed." But I don't actually believe that necessarily we're all ever healed. I think it's just like a healing process, but it's something. It's more of a mantra that one day I'll be healed, and it's kind of a feel good mantra. But yeah, it just seemed like this is an album about my life and everything that I went through to overcome. And it's a lot of mantras in it for me personally, reminders. Because I don't know about you, but I find I need reminders
Oh,
to
yeah.
stay healthy, stay on track. Like
Mhm.
it's easy to slip, it's easy to
Yeah.
slip and just go to dark places.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this is an amazing project, and start to finish, the project itself is like a journey. So it's very clear you were thoughtful about the track list and the overarching metaphorical kind of message of the storm. We all face storms in our lives. During your life, you face these different experiences, and we all have those in our lives. And I think it's really interesting because you see this evolution from start to finish with the project and ending with a song that's, you know, giving hope for the future. It's like after a storm, you see the rainbow and, the sun comes out.
Mhm.
And so I think that, the project itself and the journey that the track list takes the listener on is incredible. And I love how you were so open to just writing and not letting every song sound the same. I think it's so important for an album to have some kind of cohesive quality to it, but I never want to listen to an album where track 1 sounds like track 2, which sounds like track 3. It's just not interesting to me, and that's something I try to keep in mind too when I'm writing. It's like, don't force something or don't specifically tailor a song to a certain thing. Write and see what comes naturally and then find a way to tie it all together. And, like, you wrote more than these songs, like you said. So you went through and you picked which best served this project. And you clearly worked so hard on it. That's so awesome that you recorded in chapels and stuff. That's wild. That's so cool.
It was a really great experience, and I think it was good for both Dale and I. So Dale basically, packed up our home studio, his studio really, and because he engineered the album, mixed the album. He's a really talented guy. And moved them to these other locations, and I he hadn't done a whole lot of that before the pandemic. It was like everyone has to come here, but we don't have a grand piano in our home. We have an old upright, but I wanted a grand piano, and we found a beautiful space. It was honestly, like, I mean, it was a very spiritual experience too, recording grand piano in one of these beautiful chapels, and also the strings. And yeah, I had never, I don't think I had ever done that before. We'd always just tracked everything in like one location for the most
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only recorded in a studio and just thinking about playing a grand piano in a chapel. Piano's my main instrument. So I'm sitting here like my eyes are all starry right now.
Well, and I'll say that if you do some shopping around, a lot of the times the chapels, I mean, they keep them tuned. They might have like a fee to tune the piano,
Yeah.
but they're usually really reasonably priced, if you're flexible on the schedule of when you want to record. And so it's a great option for sure.
Yeah. Well, my producer is not going to be happy you told me this because I might start getting some big
Oh,
ideas.
oh, I think big ideas should be encouraged, and the thing is, like, if you're paying for it, that's it. Like, I paid for everything. So, I mean, I think people were, as long as I was willing to facilitate making it happen and financing it, then people are usually pretty open, as long as they're not footing the bill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, if there's one thing listeners could take away from this album, what do you hope that is?
Oh, I just hope that it encourages people to feel something, or I mean, you can't force that on anybody, but like, in my life, I'm trying to be, I'm out to try to find whatever my sense of truth and my story is, and I'm trying to be authentic in front of people. That's a big part of like what I want my show to be. It's me. I want people to feel relaxed. I want them to feel like they can maybe be as open and brave in their own lives. And I don't go through my day to day always feeling all the feels and everything. I love working, and I've got my goals, but it really has changed my life to be able to explore experiences, and be vulnerable, and feel feelings. And so I kind of hope selfishly that it makes people feel shit.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And I love how you brought up the vulnerability because this is definitely a vulnerable project. It's autobiographical, it's super authentic. And even though that can be scary at times to open up about these experiences in songs, I think, I don't know about you, but as a songwriter, that's the main reason why I write music. I love sharing it with other people. I love performing. I love recording. But first and foremost, I do it for myself to process things and to share my story and to get things out. And so I think it's incredible how you are embracing that side of you as a songwriter and sharing these songs that are so vulnerable and opening a door to hopefully inspire others to be vulnerable as well.
Thank you for saying that. You're so
Yeah.
kind.
Aw, thank you, and you're welcome. So, before we go, I wanted to hear from you a piece of advice for any aspiring songwriters and recording artists out there.
Oh, I make a plan and get to work. That's that's the only way anything's really ever done. I think, you can be afraid, you can be nervous, just go and do it because we're all going to die. And it's sorry to remind you, but like, you if you want it, then you go and you do it, you just do it. You find a way to make it happen and ask for help. If you need help, if you need guidance, coaching, and all that, you reach out to people around you that can help, and don't be afraid to work hard.
Yeah. No, I love that. I don't think anybody has ever shared that advice before. I think it's so important because people will say, "Oh, I have this dream," but then they won't actively do anything to chase it, and then a decade will go by and they're like, "I literally did nothing for myself for this dream I have." So, really great
Yeah.
piece of advice.
Well, dreams don't do anything. They're just like lots of ideas floating around, and if you don't do it, other people will. Other people will go and do those things.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how much you really want it, and I really wanted to do this. I really wanted to be healthy and strong, and so I it's changed my life all for the better, and I'm saying that I think from a place of privilege too. I recognize it's not as easy, maybe, not that it's been easy always for me, but it's I still I think it has to start somewhere. It has to start with reaching out for help, and making a plan, and just one foot at a time in front of the other, and trying to do something that you love.
Absolutely. Well, Christina, it was lovely having you on the show.
It was really great to chat with you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Of course. Can you share with everybody where they can find you online and check out all of your music?
Yeah. You know what? Just go to my website, ChristinaMartin.net. I've got the music, videos, the podcast, a chat with Heart, and that's really the hub. That's the hub.
Perfect. And speaking of having a plan, the first thing to do is make a website. It's so
Oh
important.
yeah, yeah. I love my website. As of recently, is now screen reader accessible. We So that's another thing that our artists might consider, is looking into making a website that is accessible to more people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Christina, thank you so much for joining me. You are a true inspiration, and congratulations on your incredible album, Storm. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Christina Martin. And of course, until next time, stay
Stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.